Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Saturday, November 28th, 2020, and today we're going to be talking about the state of Georgia and why I think that this state in particular defied all expectations and was actually correct with the polls. A lot of us didn't trust it entering into this election. A lot of us did not trust the polling data, and I will tell you that I did think that the polls would be correct. They've had 4 years to correct themselves. They had a very stellar performance in 2018, but then this election, they showed us that the polls were still fundamentally flawed. Now, whether that's because Donald Trump is on the ballot, whether that's because certain people may be ashamed to say they're voting for Donald Trump versus saying they're voting for Republicans, putting that all aside, I think that Georgia was actually a shining star for the polling data, the polling industry in this country, because they accurately predicted a Joe Biden victory. It was well within the margin of error. The overall average, according to 538, had Biden up 1 point. The overall average, according to Real Clear Politics, had Trump up 1 point. Overall, average them out, it was around even with Biden narrowly ahead, 1.2% plus 1, divided both by 2. So you get to a point where Biden would actually win the state of Georgia by a narrow amount, and guess what? That's exactly what he did. And they also have a pretty strong history of accurately predicting the election data in the state of Georgia in particular. In 2016, Trump was expected to win by 4.8% based off the polling data. He won it by 5.1%. That's a swing of just 0.3. Based off the data that we see, the swing was just 1.3. Taking a look at the data in the 2018 governor's race, the swing was 1.7. So yes, there is a swing, but it's well within the margin of error, and I'd actually trust these polls, 1.6%. Actually, let me correct myself. So when we're looking at the Georgia runoff election, I wouldn't say discount all of the polling data that we receive. Now, for other states, absolutely. I'm not going to show you polls in Wisconsin or Michigan or Pennsylvania solely. Maybe I'll cover them in future videos. Obviously, polling data still is going to be there. People are still going to send money there, but I do want to sort of relax the amount of time that I'm going to be talking about it. But for Georgia in particular, I'm excited to see what the polls actually suggest, because they've actually had a very strong track record about predicting the outcome of the election, specifically in this state. Whether it was 2018, whether it was 2016, whether it was 2020. 3 years that Republicans have all said the polls were wrong. And yes, they were wrong in 2016. Not by as much as they were wrong in this election, which is actually pretty surprising. But in 2018, every single state, almost every single state was correctly predicted by the polling data. I think Florida was a notable exception, but other than that, the rest of the states were either within the margin of error or they accurately predicted the election winner. So Georgia itself has a pretty strong history with it. I think we can trust the data here, but I'm not going to say that for a number of these states. I don't think that we should be trusting the polling data as much as we did prior to the election. These polling firms really missed something, because in 2016, the big deal was that the Rust Belt was missed, but a lot of these states were actually predicted correctly. The only states that were wrong based off of the expected results were Nevada, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Trump was expected to carry Nevada. He lost it. Clinton was expected to carry the Rust Belt. She lost it. Other than that, every single other state was correct. Every single other congressional district was correct. Looking ahead to 2020, the numbers actually weren't, state by state, weren't as wrong in terms of who was expected to win. Joe Biden was expected to win North Carolina and Florida based off the polling data, and Georgia and Arizona. This was the map based off the polling data. However, you also have to acknowledge that when you're looking at the results, it was only off by 2 states, but the margins do matter. In 2016, the margins were off in some states, but all in all, they got a number of them correct. Not to say that the polls didn't correctly predict the winner this time, but they expected Wisconsin to be 8 points for Biden, Michigan to be 9 points, Pennsylvania to be 5 points. These states were not 8 and 9 points. These states were narrow, closer to 1 type single-digit numbers. Wisconsin was less than 1. Michigan was 3. Pennsylvania was 2. Overall, these were not the numbers that the polling data actually suggested. So if you're looking at the 2020 results, you actually may be upset with the data. But look at Georgia. Look at the polling average in that state. Biden was expected to win it. According to 538, he was expected to win it by less than 1%. The forecast said Biden will win this state by 0.9%. It was actually 0.3%. It got it correct. That was a very real scenario, and surprisingly, on the 538, a final forecast, they actually had a possibility of this Biden win right here. take a look at this map. I'm going to go ahead and find it because it was right here. Right here. 306 electoral votes for Biden, 232 for Donald Trump. Look at all of those states. Every single state and congressional district. When I say congressional district, I mean Maine second and Nebraska second. They split their electoral votes differently than the state itself. So these states were accurately predicted. There was a scenario on the 538 website that was the exact election result. And when you're looking at the Georgia forecast, they got Georgia correct. They were well within their margin of error. And so was all of the data, not just now, but in recent and very prominent elections. So I'm going to make the argument to you that you can trust the data in Georgia, but do not put all of your faith in it. Because come January 5th, 2020, I could be proven dead wrong. But I am choosing to trust the data for this one particular state. I'm not asking you to revisit your entire faith in the polling industry nationwide. I'm asking you to take a look at the state of Georgia, and we're not seeing that many polls in this state for good reason. I don't think we should rely on it too heavily. Yes, it predicted the outcome of the winner correctly, but some of those margins were really wonky. Looking at this Georgia race, we could actually see some accurate data, and I'm actually excited that the Senate races are in states that are in one state particularly that has been correct in terms of what the polling data actually suggested. Now, the Senate special election actually threw us for a loop. Raphael Warnock did not perform as well as we thought. Neither did Lieberman. In fact, there was another Democrat who actually outperformed what the data was telling us and wasn't even on the ballot for a lot of these polling data. She received 6% of the vote. So that took a pretty significant portion away from Raphael Warnock. But overall, they got the winners correct. Taking a look at the Senate election, they expected both of these candidates to be under 50%. Neither of them was at 50%. David Perdue was under 50. Jon Ossoff was also under 50. So overall, when you're looking at the results, Jon Ossoff and David Perdue were expected to go into a runoff. And that's exactly what happened. While they predicted Jon Ossoff would win or be ahead narrowly, that could just be the fact that Joe Biden was ahead in some of these polls. He was ahead in the state of Georgia. Maybe not according to Real Clear Politics, but according to 538. So you could have seen some Biden supporters pushing Jon Ossoff over the top in the preliminary election data. I don't think many people expected Jon Ossoff to underperform Joe Biden, or really by this significant of amount, or David Perdue to outperform Donald Trump. But as we're heading into the runoff elections, I think that we can actually take a step back and take a look at the data that's provided to us and actually be pretty okay with what is laid out. Because so far we've seen data that is accurate in midterm elections, in 2 presidential elections, and all in all, I think it's a okay way to take a look at the Georgia data. Obviously, there's a lot more to dig into, but the election is a little bit under 2 months away. So we're going to see actually a little bit barely over 1 month away. So we are in a time period where we could see a pretty significant amount of polling data be released, but we haven't seen it so far. But if we're looking at the Senate special election runoff and the general election runoff, we're seeing data that shows us with Loeffler ahead or Warnock ahead. It's a dead tie in the Senate special election. In the Senate regular election, either Perdue is ahead by 4 or there's a tie. So the data is showing us that there are undecided voters still, 4% in the first poll, 2% in the second one. And all of the data is telling us that this is shaping up to be a very close race. Are you surprised? I'm certainly not. So I think that this race is going to come down to the wire. I don't imagine either candidate winning by more than 2-3% at most. And if you're looking at a lot of the election data, the preliminary election data, it's telling you the same exact thing. David Perdue is ahead by 2 points, average. In the Senate special election, neither candidate is ahead. It's a dead tie. It's a very real possibility David Perdue wins and Raphael Warnock wins, or Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue win. Jon Ossoff or Raphael Warnock win. This is a very real possibility, all 3 of them. It's possible. I don't really see a Kelly Loeffler winning scenario and a Jon Ossoff winning scenario, but weirder things have happened in this year. So I'm asking you to maybe consider trusting some of this data. I could be proven wrong on election day in January, but I don't think that I will be, because this state has had an strong history with the polling data. Has been pretty accurate, well within the margin of error in almost all of their recent elections, if not all of them. And I'm asking you for one final time to trust the data that is going to be provided with us to us over the next few days, possibly next few weeks, because this is the only election data that we're going to be seeing. And it is going to be important to take a look at some of the data that's provided to see if it's actually accurate on election day, or to see if we see what the result is expected to be. I don't really know when we'll see another poll from the Georgia Senate elections, but I'm hoping that we see one soon. And I do think that for this state only, 1 out of 50, that we can actually trust the data that's given to us. But never blindly trust put your faith in these polls, because what they've shown us twice now is that while they've had time to correct themselves, while they've had millions of dollars poured into new methodologies, to new groups being polled, that they still cannot gauge American sentiment. There's only a few states where we actually see it perform well, and Georgia is one of them. Luckily for us, that's where both Senate seats are residing today. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom left of the screen, there's also a Discord server for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video you can watch, and then a playlist for my 2020 election videos. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all tomorrow.